Hi there, welcome to Nonsense Whisky. My name's PF, and on today's episode we're going to be covering a Bowmore, and it's going to be a travel retail exclusive, or at least it is sometimes, and sometimes it's not. Bit strange, we'll go into that in a little bit. I've actually only covered two other Bowmores at this point of recording, and that's the 15-year Darkest and the Vaults edition, the first release of that. So if you're interested in either of those, I'll put links up here. I'll also put probably a link up here to my Isla playlist and my travel retail exclusive playlist, and why not the best of 2019 so far playlist throughout the show up here. So if you want to see more of that, clicky clicky. So this is a travel retail exclusive, but they do release it every now and again on the UK market. I'm not sure how it works out worldwide sort of thing, but you know, you can get this, you don't have to go to an airport, you can get it sometimes elsewhere. Now it's a 40%er, which is a bit of a shame, but you do get a litre for your money. I paid about £35 after all the taxes and whatnot. We don't really get duty free when you're travelling in the EU. At the moment the UK's in the EU, but you don't really get duty free on that. You just get some deals sometimes. I think I've got this on a deal, but you can still get this for about £40. Although it's called Dark and Intense, and it's a pretty good colour on it, it's heavily E150'd, heavily caramel coloured. This, in fact, because it's an airport bottling, it has to say, for the German markets, it has to say that it's got added colour in it. So it's there, it's there. I think we all knew it was there, but it's there. So it's probably chill filtered to the end of the earth as well, but never mind. It's cheap enough, it's cheap enough. Now, this is a ex-sherry cask and ex-bourbon cask mix. Not sure about the ratios of those, but we should be able to get some sort of kind of sherry notes from it. And of course, we know that Bowmore is from Isla, so I would be expecting some kind of smoky notes, but as we'll get into, it's not quite what we're getting. Let's get onto the nose and see what's there. Now, straight off the bat, big sherry notes. Lots of dried fruits, things like raisins, sultanas, that sort of stuff. The kind of things you're expecting to get from kind of sherry notes. Maybe the power of suggestion, but I do get some citrusy orange on this. Now, it does say this, I don't often read off the labels, but it does say stuff like, you know, sherry and oranges and things like that. It also says maple and roasted smoked walnuts, but they're not in my tasting notes, so maybe not the power of suggestion so much. Not a lot of smoke on the nose. That's one of my kind of big notes that I'm getting from this. If I was picking this out of a blind lineup, I'm not sure I would put this down as an Isla, because I don't get any smoke off this at all. Let's try a bit on the palate. Now it's quite thin on the mouthfeel, a little watery, but there's a couple of sherry notes knocking around on there. Yeah, more of those kind of dried fruits that we were talking about before. More of those citrusy notes. There is some smoke there. When it all disappears and the finish kind of lingers on, that's when you're getting your kind of smoky ashiness come through. That would be probably my first clue that it was an Isla. And the finish is kind of medium-y, ends on a fair bit of spice, but it's also quite drying on the mouthfeel. It's a bit strange, it's a bit strange. But overall, you can see, I mean, I've shared this with a few people, but you can see I've enjoyed this bottle. It's down below the label now. I've had this for a fair while, actually. I've had this for about a year or so. But now it's at this stage, this isn't going to last very long. I'll finish with this within the next week or so. Probably have a good session with a friend and just get that finished, because there's no point it standing around really. It's cheap enough. Big question, would I buy it again? Now, because I've got the channel, probably not, because I've already covered it. So there are, you know, many other things I can buy to cover on the channel. If I didn't have the channel, I probably still wouldn't buy it again. I've enjoyed it, it's been okay, but it hasn't been my favourite whiskey by a long shot. It hasn't been my favourite smoky whiskey or my favourite sherry whiskey. It's just been simply alright. Now, if you've got £35 to £40 burning a hole in your pocket and you're in the airport, but you don't want to spend any more than that, Now this is the kind of ballpark you're looking at, because you go into travel retail, you're talking about £60 and above to get anything kind of really good. But this sort of thing, still around, and you can get it fairly cheaply, and you get quite a lot of bang for your buck. So I would say if you're into that kind of market, go for it. But if you're looking for that kind of like real nice kind of travel retail exclusive to take home with you, this probably isn't the one for you. Now it's